Okay, so we are up to Mishlei 1718, and this one I think I'm actually going to just translate myself because this has two idioms and they're not guessable. I mean, maybe they're guessable. I'll let people guess, but my hopes are not high. Adam chasar lev tokea kaf, orev aruba lifnei re'ehu. Anyone want to try translating?
A person who lacks a heart,
Yep. Okay, lacks
um,
heart or mind. Oops, what happened there? Yeah, go ahead.
claps his palm, something,
Okay,
gives a
good
clap
guess.
from,
And then you know what
yeah.
orev aruba is?
Um, Orave is like weave or something like that.
Uh, yeah. All right. So,
No?
like I said, this is idioms here. All right. So let me. I'll just translate this. Okay. So actually, instead of translating it, let me just show you in the dictionary, and I'll just show you the English translations here. So tokea, or is the main translations say to strike or to sound, but the one we want is here, strike or clap hands, which is a gesture of ratifying a bargain or pledging oneself to become surety. Okay, so this is like what we would call a handshake. Okay, so I'm going to say a person who lacks a heart or mind gives a handshake. All right, um, and then Oriv Aruba Aruba is not a place in Mexico. Is it Mexico or the Caribbean? I don't know. To take on a pledge or to give in pledge or to exchange, and then an Aruba is a pledge or a token. So I'm just going to show you the English translations here because they're more eloquent than what I would come up with here. So the English says, R scroll, a man who lacks an understanding heart will give a handshake to be a cosigner for his friend. Okay. Refer says a thoughtless man gives a handshake, gives a guarantee for his neighbor. Alter says a senseless man offers his hand, stands bond for his fellow man, and then he clarifies in his commentary. Offers his hand or stands bond. Both phrases refer to offering financial surety for someone, an act considered imprudent in Proverbs. And it's like a genre of psukim to warn you against like co-signing and acting as a guarantor for someone. Okay, so let's translate it like this: a person who lacks a heart or mind gives a handshake, um, and then we'll say um, uh, gives a a pledge of guarantee. I'm trying to make it so that we have preserve the verb and the noun. So gives a pledge of guarantee. I don't know if that's the best way to say it. Um, Lifnei re'ehu. Before. So it's interesting. All of them say it's for his friend. So I'm going to say for, but then literally before his fellow. Okay. Yeah. So a person who lacks a heart or mind gives a handshake, gives a pledge of guarantee. Uh, or is surety better? Surety? Guarantee is more normal word. Okay. ציון says, Orev Aruba Miloshin Arvus Mamon. So it's a financial pledge, a financial guarantee. And then the Targum says, Barnash Chasir Rayana. So I wanted to have this here because it translates heart as Rayana as thought or thinking, person who lacks thinking, which might be where Rav Hirsch gets it, a thoughtless man. Um, yeah. But Arev Aruvusa Al Chabre. Okay. So let me copy and paste these into the chat. Um, okay. Copy and paste this into the chat. And then I'm just going to move these translations upstairs. Okay, so what are the questions and problems? And I've not prepared this pasuk tonight. There was a little bit of a last minute discussion about the fact that we just got a snow day announced for tomorrow and we had to like do a bunch of planning and stuff. So I did not get a chance to prepare. Questions. Snow got your tongue? Yeah, Rivki.
Okay, so I'm wondering if this is the Re'ehu like the same in both halves, or is that only in the second half?
Okay. So what I guess yeah, are do both halves apply to one's fellow from the second half? Yeah. And we might as well ask there as well. Yeah, Stephanie, go ahead. I'll fill it in later.
What does it mean to lack a heart or mind in this
Yeah.
context?
What does it mean to lack a heart or mind in this context? Yeah, Isaiah.
And what's the relationship between like Tokayaka and then Ore Baruba? Is that like is it the same thing? Like is it
Yeah,
referring to that? Or is it
between
two
the
separate things?
handshake and the pledge of guarantee. Yeah. Are they, you know, yeah, I guess, yeah, we'll just say what's a relationship. I mean, yeah. Yeah, presumably they're two different things, but they sound very similar. And like Alter said, Alter in his footnote basically, did I delete that? Yeah, I think I deleted it. He basically treats it as similar or as the same. What else? Yeah, Rufki.
I'm also wondering, like, I guess what's the context here? Like, especially
Yeah.
in the first half.
What is the decision-making scenario here? Yeah. I mean, there's a big problem. I don't know. No one's saying the problem yet. I mean, Rifki got closest just now. Anyone?
Are you
Okay, so
saying?
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, maybe, like, it just kind of sounds redundant. Like that if you're, I mean, I don't know the Hebrew etymology of like Tokea, but
Yeah.
it just does sound like, because I would assume that's the same thing as like a guarantee.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of like what I think was Isaiah was getting at. So I'll just extend it to what's the relationship between the two halves. And in fact, our scroll, you notice our scroll just merges them. A man who lacks an understanding heart will give it a handshake to be a cosigner for his friend. I assume that they were prompted by that. Yeah, Stephanie?
Why is this a bad sign? Like a
Well,
bad
okay.
thing?
Right. Okay. So the way I'm gonna express it a little bit more forcefully here, which is like what exactly actually no, it's a different question. They're related. Okay. So I'll ask yours first. Okay. What's so bad about this? And the way I would ask it is, what exactly is this advising us not to do? Never make agreements with people, right? I mean, it sounds like it's saying don't make handshakes and don't act as a guarantor for someone, which is extreme. And just to show you that this is a legitimate question, there are other pasukim. I mentioned that this is a genre in Mishlei. Let me just see if I see if I could just find this easily by looking at the concordancy. No, not concordance. Oh no. Hold on a second here. Um, okay. No. Okay. Well, I'll show you one. So the first time this appears in Mishlei is in Vav. So ordinarily, these psukim say, "B'ni im aravta l're'echa takata lazar kapecha." If you make a handshake with a stranger, okay, and it goes and goes on to say that. So that I understand. Like if you are entering into an agreement where you're going to be putting yourself at risk for someone who you don't know, all right, fine. But this seems to be like across the board, right? Um, so that's my problem. And that's what I meant when I said that this is close to what Rifki said, which is what's the decision making scenario here. Rifki's asking it as a question. I'm asking it as a problem. Yeah, Isaiah.
Okay. I don't know if this question is valid because it seems like the translations took a stance on this, but like, is the second half definitely like a negative continuation of the first thing, or could it be saying like a separate positive thing?
That's a good question.
Like,
So
like I kind of originally read this as okay, like the first person is Kasa or Lave, but if you're Ore Varuba, that you should do that.
okay, right. So alternatively, what is the relationship between the two halves? Are they similarly bad cases, or is one good and one bad, or is one a continuation of the other? Just to point out a little linguistic thing here. Oh, you want to hold on? Let me just look at something here. I did not even think about this. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, um, yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder if Oh, that would be a little embarrassing here. See, I read this as Adam Chasar Lev Tukei Kaf. Oh, never mind. Sorry. Yeah. Here's the difficulty. Difficulty is the first half, it has a subject and a predicate. Person who lacks an understanding heart gives a handshake. And then the second half, though, is just a predicate, right? He gives a pledge of guarantee for his friend. So that's what is forcing the art scroll to merge the two and say that a person who's lacking an understanding heart gives a handshake and or gives a pledge of guarantee. So Isaiah, if you wanted to read the two as like one good and one bad, you're going to have to contend with the fact that the second half just has a predicate and doesn't say anything good. And in other words, that's what's making the art scroll merge them is there's only one subject. Sorry, I'm getting the words mixed up here. The subject is someone who shakes a hand and gives a pledge of guarantee, but the only predicate is Adam Chasar Lev. Or I guess you could say it both ways. So the point is that you're going to have to find some way. If you're going to want to make one half good and one half bad, first half is definitely bad. Second half, you're going to have to try to find some way to make it say that it's good when the words don't really seem to point to that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess I was reading it like Lifnei Re Ehu means it's like before him in a good way. But yeah, I hear.
Yeah. Okay. Next is my dad.
Who's the intended audience here?
Right. That's another good question here. Who is the intended audience? So presumably, okay, the person who lacks a heart or mind, but I guess like, who is that, right? In other words, this is not necessarily a Mishleic archetype. It could be, I mean, I don't know. I mean, is that, I guess we can ask that in our question about what does it mean to lack a heart or mind? Is this a Mishleic archetype? Or is this something that could happen to anyone, Like if you say, for example, like I wasn't thinking, does that put you into that category? Who is prone to this mistake? Who is prone to this mistake? Yeah, Stephanie.
Could there be like a hidden subject? Like, you know how you said the second part is a predicate? It has an action, but it doesn't have a subject of the
Right.
sentence. If let's say it was relating to the original subject, wouldn't it just have an and? Since it has like a lacking of something,
Yeah.
it makes it seem like it's missing a part that should be implied for some
Right.
reason.
So there, in terms of the move that you want to make, there is that category in Mishlei, and it's not super common, but we've seen it where it's lacking a subject and you have to fill it in. The only problem is here, the simplest explanation is to say that the subject is the one in the beginning of the pasuk, and it's just saying two things about them. Like again, I think the Rav Hirsch and Alter both say that a thoughtless man gives a handshake, gives a guarantee for his neighbor. A senseless man offers his hand, stands bond for his fellow man. So it's the same subject as in the first. So I think that's the easiest. So you also, in other words, if you couldn't do that, then I would say maybe let's look for a hidden subject. But if you have a subject there already, then I feel like that's the simplest solution.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Good thinking though. Yeah, Rufki.
Yeah, so like 1.5 things. So on 8,
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, like, it's just interesting. It says Adam, right? Like, I think, like, I
Right.
wouldn't necessarily, like, to me, it feels very neutral. Like, you're not saying Russia. That's just like one thing
Yeah.
I wanted to add. And then just another question, which was on Re'ehu. Exactly, like, I know last week we spoke about, I forgot what word it was, but there was like something we looked up to, oh, it was right? So I guess I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, in terms of Ray Ahu, like, obviously we use it as like fellow, but is there like a specific way we're supposed to be thinking about that, or is it just like
Right.
general understanding?
Yeah. Okay. So let me actually do the second one first. So who is this fellow? Okay. Is this a friend? Yes. Who's this fellow on the close friend to total stranger spectrum? Okay. And then regarding your observation about Adam, so I want to actually do a search and see. Mishlei definitely talks about the Chasar Lev. I just want to see how often it uses Adam Chasar Lev or just Chasar Lev. Let's see.
Also, now you're reminding me, like, I feel like when I was thinking about the question, I was thinking ish, because we've definitely had ish before.
Hmm.
So
Right.
I'm wondering, like, maybe that's a grammar thing and I just don't know, but why use ish over Adam, or is that just
Yeah.
poetic?
Oh, look at this. It's interesting. Shlomo is the only one who uses the term chasar lev in Tanakh. Is that interesting? Hmm. Never noticed that before. So you've got Noif Isha Chasar Lev Mashkis Nafsha Hu Yasena. A person who commits adultery with a woman lacks a heart. One who destroys his own soul does this. Then 7:7. I looked out at the simpletons. I contemplated the sons. A youth who lacks a heart. Mi pesi yasurhena chasar lev amrala. Who is a simpleton? Let him turn here. One who lacks a heart, she says to him. Mi pesi. Oh, sorry, same thing. All right, so same pasuk. Okay, then you've got now we got in the main mishlei. Bisifse navon timate chachma v'shevet legav chasar lev. So in the lips of an understanding person, you will find wisdom and a rod for the back of one who lacks a heart. Sifse tzadik rabim v'evilim b'chasar lev yamusu. Lips of a tzaddik will shepherd the many, but fools who lack a heart will die, or will die with a lack of heart. Baz l'reihu chasar lev. The ish tavunos yacharish. One who disparages his friend lacks a heart, but a man of understandings will be silent. Ovid adam admaso yisba lachem umaradif rekim chasar lev. One who works his land will be satiated with bread. One who chases after emptinesses lacks a heart. Ivela simcha lachasar lev. The ish tavuna yayashar lachas. Foolishness is joy to a person who lacks a heart, and a man of understanding will straighten his way, his going. Then we got our pasuk. Okay, then we've got after that also today ish atzel avartiv al kerem adam chasar lev. There we got adam chasar lev finally. Over the field of a man who's lazy, I passed. Over the vineyard of a person who lacks a heart. And then we've got actually that's the only one. Okay, fine. So it only says adam chasar lev once. Most of the time it's chasar lev in general. So I don't know if that suggests, like you were saying, Rifki, that like Adam is specifically a general term for a person, and it's not the full blown chasar lev. It's an Adam who's chasar lev. That's definitely a possibility here. Also, look, I mean, if this was saying someone who makes a pledge for a total stranger, I would call that like a foolish person. I do feel like you could get into situations like this where like much easier if you're not a total fool, where like you can like vouch for someone and not realize who you're vouching for, and not be a total fool, but you're just a person who happens at that moment to lack a heart. Yeah. Okay. um did we ask all of hold on a second, did we ask what a person who lacks a heart is? Yeah, we did. Okay, yeah, Avital or Yitzi.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's any relationship with the previous pasuk that we
I was
did
wondering that also.
before, because that
Yeah.
one's talking about brothers and friends and
Right.
friendship. So yeah, just if
Yeah.
there's any relationship and like the flow of ideas.
Okay, good question. So the last pasuk said, "B'chol es ohev harea v'ach litzara yivaled." At all times, um, the friend loves, and that's the friend or the fellow. But a brother is born for distress or whatever. So yeah, so there are people who connect the two. Okay, so I will ask that question. So is this? Oops. Is that? Is this related to the previous pasuk? Oops, sorry, the previous. I'm gonna do this in translation. Previous pasuk, which also mentioned the fellow. Yeah, Isaiah.
Did we ask like what's meant by before this fellow?
No, we didn't.
the same?
I'll ask it anyway, although I am gonna assume that it's just another way of saying. Oh, you know what? Actually, hold on. Okay, I have an idea now. But plain shot, I think it means for your friend. Okay, but we'll ask it though, because I think there is something to get there. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. Yeah. What happened? Oh, here we go. Okay. What does it mean by before his fellow? Right. In other words, like plain shot is it means for his fellow. So why use a weird word? Okay. Feel like we have the major questions. I'm going to start putting them in the chat. Not as many as I expected. I guess because the two halves are kind of saying similar things. Why does it do this? Oh, there we go. Nope. Okay. 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and 12. Wait, are there not 12? Wait. Did I do something twice? Hold on. What's going on here? Oh, I caught. Okay. Whatever. Hold on. Gotta change the numbers again. Okay. Okay, so let us take our full thinking minute.
Can I ask a question or is that not
Yeah.
allowed?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think you may have addressed this, but I'm just not sure. Like, because I know you said art school kind of combines them, but just like the way that the Hebrew and the grammar works, can it be that like the handshake is what leads to the guarantee? Meaning not that it's the same, but that it like is a cause and effect, or is that not possible?
I think it's possible.
Okay.
Like you could say, wait, how did art school say it? Oh, what's going on with my document? Why can't I scroll? Okay, hold on. I gotta close this and open it up again. Yeah, like you could say, you could insert a, you could go like a person who lacks an understanding heart gives a handshake, thereby giving a pledge of guarantee for his fellow, something like that. Like you could have other connector words in there, I think. Okay, Rifki, go ahead.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of that's why I was asking the question is
Yeah.
because that's I think where my mind was going. Yeah, pretty simple, just like kind of what I was saying about that last question. I think that this type of person is well intended. Like I think that's part of why like it doesn't say a Russia, right? Like they
Mhm.
want to do good in the world, they want to help out. But if they were on the level of like a tzaddik or a chassid, then they wouldn't obviously be, chasser leave, right? So I
Right.
think that that's like the piece they're missing. It's not necessarily that they're like lacking intelligence, like they're not stupid, but it's just that they don't have like that quite that understanding of, I think, like that people relationship type thing, and I think that's why I was thinking like, oh, like that person just like, oh, like, I'll shake this person's hand, I'll be friendly and, kind of like the person that's friends with everyone and always wants to help. But then obviously in certain cases that's not going to be good, right? And like he might not even realize that his demeanor and his, disposition looking out toward the world might end up negatively affecting himself, right? Because if you,
Mhm.
help every single person, you will see every single person as your friend or your fellow, obviously you're gonna get into some trouble.
Right. So I get the vibe of the person that you're describing here. But it to me, I'm not hearing a specificity in what the pasuk is talking about or warning against.
So I think like the specificity is why I asked about the translation because
Yeah.
I think like what I was trying to say about this specific person is that like he doesn't realize that the way that his friendly disposition in all cases, in all circumstances, which is part of his lack of understanding of like human relationships, that's in and of itself what leads to him making like, promises or pledges or whatever it might be without even realizing that that's what he's doing. Like he's not aware of it.
Okay. Stumbling block for him in these ways. Yeah. Okay. I still sense. I feel like you're telling me about him, but you're not telling me what the pasuk is teaching us. So let's put that on the side burner, okay, and come back to it. Yeah, Racheli.
Okay, so like Rifki, I also think there's like a significance to the fact that it doesn't say like a fool or a Russia. So I
Right.
think this is talking about like a generally intelligent person who, in the context of being offered something exciting, allows his excitement to blind his the right word is not hesitation, but like slow, whatever, like
Like
thinking,
deliberation?
deliberation, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm reading it as like literally before the friend, like he has somebody with him, and he's the first to like strike out his hand, and he doesn't pay attention to the fact that his friend slash business partner slash companion has a reason to hesitate or to think through.
Oh, before, as in like chronologically before.
Mhm.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Means means like in time. That he is like he is too eager to like he's more eager than his friend.
So, I would say in general, this just warns against like actually this advocates for like reading the room and like noticing the people you're with, like what they how they react to things, especially if they're a friend, because they obviously you're friends with them for a reason. You should trust their reactions.
Okay. Um are reacting. Okay. So I think this is supplying what I was finding lacking so far in Rifki's approach, which this is you did bring it down to like a practical application here. I think the thing that both of you are missing that I would like to see in an idea here is Tokea Kaf and Ori of Aruba are such specific actions, like we're not just criticizing someone for being overly friendly, and we're not just criticizing someone even for like um not deliberating. Like this is specifically, and again, I want to stress to you, this is a genre in Mishlei. Let me just see if I can find if in look at this index and just show you a couple other examples other than the one that I quoted. This is a genre about people who make guarantees for people, and then that gets them into trouble. That's like a very specific thing. All right, let's see here. All right, yeah, here we go. Okay, so so I quoted to you 6:1. Let me just show you a couple more. And again, I'm not saying that these are all saying the same idea, but okay, 11:15. Ra Yeroa ki arav zar v'sone tokim boteach. The person who makes a guarantee for a stranger will surely be broken, but one who hates handshakes will be secure. Okay. Next one is no, never mind. 2016. Oops. 2016. No, not 26. Wait, yeah. Yeah, Lakach Bigdo Ki Arav Zar. If someone made a guarantee or acted as a surety for a stranger, his garment has been taken or will be taken. Uva'ad Nachriya Chavlehu. How do we translate this? Hold on. 2016. Just want to see when I taught this. 2016. Take the garment of one who cosigns on behalf of a stranger and one who takes collateral on behalf of a strange woman. Okay, and then I think there's one more. Yeah, 27:13. Kach big. Oh, did I just do that one? Yeah, I just did that one. Hold on. Where's this next one? Oh, here we go. 22. Oh, it's out of order. That's why it's tripping me up in this index here. 22, 26 through 20. Al tehi batoke kaf ba'orvi mashaos. Do not be someone who shakes hands, someone who makes guarantees. What's mashaos here? On loan. Okay. Because if he can't pay, why should he take your bed from under you? So I feel like that's what I mean by it's a genre. All of these are psukim that warn against making guarantees for people because you could come to be hurt by it. So I feel like not that what you guys said is inapplicable here, but you need to get down to that level of specificity.
On
Yeah,
that, just on that, are we saying that this pasuk also, because the other ones are quite clear that I feel like it's
about
a
stranger.
me. Well,
Yeah.
that also. So
Oh,
is
sorry,
this,
what were you gonna say?
no, I was saying that what you said too, but about money, the other ones. Whereas this one, I
This
feel
is
like,
100% about money.
okay,
100% about
yeah,
money. Yeah,
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 I was
yeah.
just making
Definitely.
sure.
Yeah, that's why I was in alter again. I deleted it already, but Ora Aruba is a monetary financial term. Shaking hands is not just like high five, dude. It's like you're entering into an agreement, a handshake deal.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you think this one is should be read in that context of like the pledge is inherently bad, and it's not particularly that it's before his friend. Is that what you're trying to say?
So I think you do have a good hook here by saying before might be that, but it's definitely saying that these actions are bad.
Like
And that's
in
why I feel like what you and Rifki are both saying, both like your explanations have potential here, but it has to like get to the level of that specificity. But I like the Lifnei. I mean, the only thing I'm wondering about here, yeah, no, Lifnei can mean before chronologically in biblical Hebrew, of course, yeah. So yeah, so keep thinking. Yeah, Avital or Yitzi.
Okay, I just had a thought. I don't know if it's like exactly in line with like it's a little bit different than what they just
Yeah,
said. But just in terms of the people around us, we like feel like whether it's your neighbor or your friend, like, oh, like he's kind of not gonna like I know him, so like everything's like gonna be good. And before like giving a pledge before like your fellow, even if it's somebody you're really close to in this situation, whoever it is clearly lacking a full picture or some sort of like full idea that one who is, our words are really powerful. And also, when there's other people involved, obviously, like I know you were saying this about money, but literally, when you give a handshake, there has to be another person involved.
hmm
And so, when you're getting involved in something, and even if it's for a friend, you're like, no, I'm telling you, he's totally good on whatever it is that he got himself into. That it's like if you do that without having a full picture, you're really somebody like you're kind of going to get yourself into trouble and
Okay.
you're lacking a harder mind within that. It's not going to end well.
Okay. All right. So that's a good broad picture thing here. So generally speaking, whenever you enter into any engagement, relationship, or deal with another person, you need to be aware of the fact that you don't have a full picture. Um,
And it's
this
almost
is
like a kal vachomer, like for somebody who's like
right.
your fellow, your friend, like before going into a deal for them, it's like, of course, for somebody that you don't, completely trust or like, no.
Yeah. Um, okay, I don't mean to shift this into really, really different territory for a second, but I'm planning to write a paid subscriber Substack article on my Mishlei impressions of Jeffrey Epstein. I have not been following the whole story, but I over the weekend I watched the four-part Netflix documentary. And he just is a very interesting Mishlei character. And the reason why I'm bringing it up now is this is a mistake that I mean, we're seeing this in the news now. A lot of people made this mistake about Jeffrey Epstein, right? Is like they entered into agreements with him, they accepted his money, they went to his island, they did stuff, and even the people who are not involved in any of the sexual stuff, they entered into partnerships with him without realizing that they need to like investigate who it is that they're taking the money from, and so like that's a really good really and now they're getting in trouble for it. So that's a good example of this. Yeah, so this could be an explanation, by the way. I don't know if you were intending to do this, Avital, but like this might explain why it's specifically not emphasizing um a stranger, okay, like many of the other psukim in this genre.
Yeah, also, I think it's another reason why it doesn't mention like any specific archetype because everybody has people who they're close to.
Yeah.
And whether like you're Russia or a tzaddik, like everybody has people that they like trust and they consider either their literal neighbor or like friend, somebody who's like trustworthy, but
Yeah.
like you really have to investigate, and it's a silly thing no matter who you are to do that. You could be part of a high society and there could be a lot of whatever it is,
Right.
like scandal or exactly like you're saying.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I feel like if I knew Tanakh better, I would come up with examples from like say for Shmuel where like this happened, you know. I feel like that's a thing. But yeah, that's a good point. Give me 1 second here.
Yeah,
So
you
Adam,
also had an idea
yeah,
after.
different idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just I feel like we're close to finishing this one here. So Adam Chasar Lev took a kaf. Um, so in other words, like okay, so yeah, okay. I don't mean to recycle an idea, but I do want to bring in another element from another pasuk that I just quoted. Where was it? In 11? Um wait. What was the one that I just said? One who hates handshakes. Um sorry, I gotta look it up again. Arvus Sone yeah, 11:15. It's right here. Yeah, the Sone Tokin Boteach, one who hates handshakes will be secure. So I think I have an idea on that pasuk. You know what? Actually, let me dig into the archives here. Okay, this is the deep archives. 11:15. Oop. Yeah, okay. What did I say for this one? One will be utterly broken by co-signing for a stranger, but a hater of handshakes will be secure. Co-signing for a stranger is a decision. Again, just to make sure we get the fact here, co-signing is mean if I co-sign for Avital, let's say, right? So it means that she's borrowing money from Rivki, and if Avital can't pay the loan, then I'm agreeing to pay the loan on her behalf. Okay, so co-signing for a stranger is a decision which yields almost no benefit and can have devastating consequences. Yet it is easy to be lured by powerful emotions into making such an agreement, such as sympathy, guilt, and the desire to help those in need. Moreover, it is easy to be blinded to the potential consequences of such an agreement, since the immediate cost, quote unquote, is nothing more than a handshake. Now, here's the point I wanted to bring out. The most effective way to guard oneself is to cultivate a powerful, consequence-based loathing for all such agreements. When co-signing opportunities present themselves, this loathing will serve as a counterforce against the emotional lure, thereby enabling you to maintain a wary mentality of practical self-interest. So, in other words, the pasuk makes it sound like you should hate all handshakes and never, pasuk says you should hate all handshakes. Okay, it's true, does not mean that you should never make handshakes with someone, but it means is you should have this be the default thing where like, no, I'm never going to make an agreement. In the same way as, let's say, for example, I have had to cultivate my my default saying no when someone asks me to do something because my schedule is already full and I have to like make the first reaction to be no, and then I can like go to the middle after that and then reconsider it. So why did I bring this up here? Oh yeah, because with Avital's idea, um, I think that works out that you should cultivate a mentality that if someone says, let's make a deal, you automatically assume I have a blind spot. Like you should automatically think to yourself, "Oh, I'm being a chasar lave," and then that'll cause you to do your due diligence. And then if you say, "Well, but it's my friend," so then still like it's the same same subject that this is predicating this of, right? Is that you are a chasar lave if you do this. Now, if you go through that and you assure yourself by doing your research that you're not being chasar lave and you can trust your friend, fine. So then make the deal. But the default reaction should be that I'm being a chasar lave. I think this is a good idea from Avital. All right, let's go
Little
to
salesman.
say again.
It's a little like salesman, how people like have their guard up because like I know
Yeah,
you're not like being nice to me, like, but that's like
exactly.
a natural thing. I feel like
Yep.
here you might think it's less so because it's your friend.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, salesman, politician, like there's certain things where you have to have like a default reaction of distrust. ChatGPT, right, is like default distrust. Okay, Yitzi, you had an idea.
Yeah, so what I was thinking about is why being a guarantor is so bad.
Yeah.
And there are two things that came to mind. Number one is for the person who's giving the guarantee, and number two is for the one who's getting the guarantee. for the person who's giving the guarantee, well, actually, starting for the person who's getting the guarantee, like in general, we view tzedakah and helping people as a good thing in Judaism. So why is it that this mode we look on as bad? So in terms of the person who's getting it, it's a way of helping somebody where you're not at all teaching them responsibility. If you give someone tzedakah and then it's their money and they can do what they see fit with it. If you give someone a loan, then they owe you the money back at the end. A
Right.
guarantee is a type of interaction where they don't have your money, they're using their money, but if they're irresponsible with whatever they got the loan for, then they're covered. So through like a Mishleic lens, when we view it from the person who's getting the loans thing, like you think you're being a good friend by helping him out, but long term, by setting him up in such a situation, it's possible that you're not being a good friend.
Okay, that's really good. So
Um,
you think you're being a good friend by helping him out, but in the long run, it's a crutch that might harm him and you, which you're about to say.
right. Right. And that was like the second thing, that it's a way, if someone's giving tzedakah or giving a loan, so a person's going to know, it's like related to what you were saying earlier, like I have the money or I don't have the money. And the guarantee, you're doing something where it can be structured in such a way where it can really have crippling economic impacts on yourself. And then with these two things, I think you can also take a step back and say, okay, so this is a type of friendship or friendship interaction, which is a bad thing, where really people are trying to do good, but for both parties involved, there's harm involved. But with real friends, so and like thoughtful friends, when they interact with each other, you try to do it in a way where not only your intentions are good, but
Yeah.
the way that you're giving and the impact is good both for the giver and for the taker.
Okay, good. So I want to actually extend this to a actually I want to make this into a question. I'll just add this here. What are the uh parameters of this decision making this pasuk? So I think what comes to my mind in the interaction that Rifki's describing, and I'm sure you can chime in maybe, is I feel like parents do this with their kids in school, like, or teachers sometimes do this, or schools do this. I do not get why there are schools that have policies that they don't let kids fail. I've taught in a school that they will not let a kid get away with a failing grade, and like they'll let them do makeup work over the summer to like make it up. And they think that they're doing a favor for the kid, but no, they're not. They're basically acting as a guarantor to like prevent the kid from actually getting the consequences of this. And same thing with parents, is like the parents will set up well, you're going to get these consequences if you fail to do your part, and then they end up taking the responsibility for them. Yeah, Avital or Yitzi?
Yeah, I have a student in 8th grade who can't read basically.
Yeah.
And similar situation, like this girl's mother apparently also had some reading or learning disabilities or setbacks that she was always stigmatized for. Clearly, she didn't get help. So for her daughter, she won't allow her to be modified. She won't allow her. But the school, on the one hand, doesn't want her to just fail and not move ahead. But at the same time, they've done this disservice to her by allowing her to just continue on. And she's literally in 8th grade and can barely read and write.
Yep.
So like
Yep.
you just feel terrible for her. And the
Yeah.
school's kind of like, well, we don't want her to make her feel terrible. I said the way to not make her feel terrible is to say either you got to learn how to read and write or you can't keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. So that's a good example in another zone, in another area. I'm just trying to think if there's another. Yeah, I think it's a good example, but okay, I really like this idea. All right. Nice work. Okay, Isaiah.
Okay. I feel like the way I was thinking about this topic maybe like a little bit, I don't know if it's factually wrong or if it's just too narrow for what it was saying. But I was kind of taking this as like an injunction against like verbal agreements.
Okay.
So a person who shakes hands, he's chaser leiv in that he's not like fully in a deal. Like versus if you go into like writing the agreement out and like fully specifying the terms, then you've like concretized the deal for this person and then they're invested in it. So he might be making a guarantee, but he's like making a guarantee in front of this person. He's not making a guarantee like with this person to this person. So it's sort of performative. and he's not going to be like so compelled to actually perform on the guarantee that he's made, which I mean, you could combat with like Basin maybe if you had witnesses, but like
Yeah.
it's much more dangerous than if you had in writing, I think, like a
Okay.
guarantee.
That's a good approach also. This is much more dangerous. Right. In other words, okay, so that's a good way around the question that I was saying about how is this saying that you should not ever make agreements with people? No, it's not. It's saying you should never make handshake deals with people because then you don't know what the what do you call it? What the terms are, you know? And I will turn off the recording here and say this. I've said this before, and this is public knowledge. Okay, so let me just check this out for the second half and see if this works out. So Adam Chasar Lev Tokea Kaf. Only a person who lacks thought would make a handshake agreement. Oriv Aruba Lifnei Re'ehu. He's only entering into a guarantee in front of his friend. Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying about the performative or the fact that it's like it's just in front of his friend. If we could get another nuance from either that idea or from the second half, I would feel much better about the whole idea, but I like the idea in general.
Well, I guess I was thinking it's kind of like true for all financial agreements, but I think it's especially true for a guarantor because he's like you were describing before, he's a third party who is like paying off someone else's like debts. It's not actually his own debt. So
Right.
he's even like more removed than a person who shakes a hand on that kind of agreement is like not like really that invested. This might not
Yeah.
be.
Okay, good. That's true. And it is much riskier for you. Okay, good. All right, I like that idea also. Okay, good. Racheli?
First question, can you read Lifnei as on behalf of?
Yeah, where did I just see that? I was thinking that that might be what the Targum is saying, Aravusa al Chavre, regarding his fellow or on behalf of his fellow. I think you could read it that way.
Okay, so a different direction than before.
Okay.
But let's say something comes up for your friend and you try to accept it on their behalf. It's basically saying that's thoughtless or inconsiderate behavior as a friend for two reasons. One is that, like, as you were saying before, like, in general, you don't like it's such a like the handshake kind of deal is like usually missing a lot of the details and like you don't know the full story. Furthermore, you're not them, so like you don't know all of their personal details that would make this either good or bad for them. And then secondly, you know, because you're not a fool from learning Mishlei, how fraught such pledges and handshakes are in general. And you wouldn't want someone else to do that on your behalf because it's bad for you. Um,
Right.
the bare minimum is to not do to others what you don't want done to you. So if you do that,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that, and I like. I feel like there is a chasar lev. I don't know if this is across the board, but in the chasar lev psukim, the which one was the one? Baz l're'ehu chasar lev. Yeah, one who disparages his friend lacks a heart. I think there is a. I think that pasuk can be learned in terms of like a lack of empathy or identifying with them. So that's like the vibe I'm getting here. Also, that if you make a handshake deal on behalf of someone else, then you are lacking empathy of like you wouldn't want someone doing this for you, so why are you doing this for them? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So why are you doing this for them? Okay, that's a good idea. So let me just look at it one more time. Adam chasalev tukei kaf or Aruba Lifnei Re'ehu, right? So on behalf of your, so yeah, if you make an agreement on behalf of your friend, then you should recognize it's actually even better. Chasar lev, because chasar lev can mean lacking knowledge and lacking emotion. I think you could read it as corresponding to the two things you said, that you're lacking knowledge if you do this, like you're lacking knowledge that you lack knowledge, and you're lacking the proper degree of empathy that yeah, you might want to help your friend, but this is not really helping him if you do this. So yeah, all right, that's good. That's a good idea too. All right, nice. Okay, I like this better than your other one. So I'm not crossing this out to invalidate it, but just so that I remember if I come back to this that we did not end up sticking with that idea. Okay. Okay, good. This is really good. I want to try something out before we look at the meforshim here. Where's the Gemara? Anyone know the Gemara that I just quoted this one? What is hateful to you, don't do to your friend. Anyone know where that Gemara is? Hold on, I just looked it up. Let me see if I can find it in my All Torah history. When did I do this? I did this on Thursday night. What day? Thursday night. Yuval? No, not Yuvamos. Hold on. It might just be easier if I look it up in hold on. I want to say it's in Shabbos. Okay, hold on a second. What is hateful to you, Hillel? Yeah, Racheli?
I just thought of another like specific example of what I said.
Yeah,
Is like, let's say you have a friend who in general makes deals or whatever in a certain context. So then like if this time you think like, oh, it's totally fine, I'll just accept on their behalf.
yeah,
You don't know, like their circumstances could have changed. And let's say it's
yeah,
like a person and they lose all their money and then they come back and they're like, I can't do that. How come you said I couldn't?
yeah.
It's
Right.
like,
Okay, that's a great example. Right. Yeah. All right, that's good. Yeah, the circumstances can change. Okay, so this is the famous story where yeah, so Shuv, so this is in a series of stories about Hillel and Shammai. Shuv Maisa B'goy Echad Sheba Lifnei Shammai. So there's another story about a non-Jew who came before Shammai. Amar Lo, he said to Shammai, Gairini al manas shetalamdeni kol Torah kula. Convert me on the condition that you teach me all the entire Torah. Kishiani omid al regal achas, when I'm standing on one foot. Dechafu b'amas habinyan shabiado. So he chased him out with the yardstick. Ba livnei Hillel, and he came before Hillel, Gaire, and he converted him. Amar Lo, he said to him, Da Allah sane lechavrach lo tavid. Zo kol Torah kula, v'idach perushahu zil gemor. So he said, what is hateful to you, what is hateful to you, do not do to your friend. Allah sani, what is hateful to you, l'chavrach lo tavid, don't do to your friend. So that's the entire Torah, and the rest is its commentary. Go and learn it. Okay. So what is your understanding of that that statement of what's hateful to you, don't do? Like, how is that the entire Torah? Just, I mean, what's your like go to? Like, I feel like everyone has like some sort of intuitive understanding of it. I'm not looking for like a whole shiur, just like, yeah, Avital or Yitzi.
It's just the idea of mishpatim in general, of like living in a just society.
Right. Okay, right. Bein Adam L'Chavero, living in a just society, golden rule, like that's the most important thing. Okay. Okay, so I believe, let's see if I'm wrong about this. I think Rashi has a shocking interpretation. Yes. Okay, good. So here's Rashi's interpretation. To Allah Sani L'Chavrak Lo Tavi. He has two interpretations. Re'acha v'rea avicha al tazov. So he quotes a pasuk in Mishlei. Do not forsake your friend and your father's friend. Okay. And what does that mean? Zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is referring to God. Al Tavor, because who else has the same friend as their father, right? It must be referring to God. Al Ta'avor al Devarav, don't transgress his words. Shahari Alecha Sanui Shiavor Chavirach al Devarecha, because it's hateful to you when your friend transgresses your words. Lishna Achrina, another interpretation, Chavirach Mamish. It's referring to your literal friend, Kagon Gazela Gneva Niyuf Rova Mitzvos, like theft and robbery and stealing and adultery and the majority of other mitzvos. So in other words, I think most people, when they hear this story and they say what's hateful to your friend, what's hateful to you, don't do to your friend, they assume it means an actual human being friend. That's Rashi's second interpretation, but his first interpretation is what's hateful to God. Don't sorry, what's hateful to you, don't do to God. Okay. So why am I quoting this? because when we read lifnei re'ehu, pshat is giving a pledge of a guarantee for your friend. But I was thinking, when do we use the expression lifnei re'ehu? And then my mind said, oh, lifnei re'ehu, if your friend is God, it means before God. Okay, I don't know where I'm going with this, but let's try this out here. Okay, possible derech nister. So this is the esoteric interpretation. So before his fellow means before God. Okay, so the question is, what would this pasuk be saying if it's talking about God? Now, remember, in the derech nister, in the esoteric interpretation, then you could we're taking this metaphorically. Okay. By the way, we rarely do this in our Monday Night Mishlei shiur, but in our shiur and Mishlei we do this. Our shiur and yeshiva we do this more. So, anyone have a good derech nister interpretation? Yeah, Racheli?
I don't know if this is like a whole thing, but it's reminding me of that direct instruction to not like trust in yourself until the day of your death. Like basically
Okay.
don't assume before God that like you are guaranteed in the way that you are right now. Like
Okay.
don't your behavior ever. You're
Yeah.
right.
Okay, all right, that's a good idea. So yeah, I also don't know how how far to take this. And I don't know what point we cross into drush territory, but don't treat it as though you've made a guarantee. Sorry, don't act as a guarantor for yourself, right? Don't act as
Yeah.
a guarantor for yourself before God, assuming that you will, you're going to maintain this level of righteousness for the rest of your life, and nothing can go wrong. That's good for the second half. Yeah. Now we got to figure out what the first half would be. Yeah, Avital, we'll get possibilities out, then we'll
Yeah, I'm
brainstorm.
wondering, once we're going derech nister of
Yeah.
Orei Merubah, can't that also mean like laying a surprise attack?
That's with an olive.
Oh, okay. Never
Yeah.
mind then.
Yeah.
Also, it's possible the Gra would say something along these lines. It might be worth looking
Oh
at.
yeah. I started yeah, I forgot if we've done this here, but I also started once they put the gra in Mishlei. People love the gra in Mishlei, and it's a tragedy for me. The ones that are on Al HaTorah or on MG Keter, I consult a lot, and the ones that are not, I don't, and the ones that are not in Torah's Chaim, even less. So like I have a volume of the gra, but I just rarely like look at him. So yeah, we'll check him out. Bli Netter. Yeah, Stephanie.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar. I was going to say it reminds me, like this whole promise thing reminds me of that we shouldn't like give a blin adair with just anything we say. And when you're
Okay.
giving a guarantee, you're inherently not really having like oh, like if it doesn't happen, no, you have a consequence. It's not like you are promising something, and as like humans, giving any sort of promise can
Yeah.
lead to like misfortune for friendship or just anything in general.
Okay, that's good. That reminds me of Koheles, where he warns about making vows. Is it in 10? No. Hold on. Hold on, where is it? Is it 4? Is it that far back? Oh, here we go. Yeah. Al tvahel al picha of libcha al yimaher lahotzi davar lifnei ha'elokim. Don't be hasty with your mouth or quick with your heart to express a matter before God. Ki ha'elokim b'shamayim v'ata al ha'aretz al ken yehu devracha me'atim. Because God is in heaven and you are on earth, therefore let your words be few. Ki ba ha'chalom barov inyan v'kol ksiel barov devarim. A dream comes in a multitude of concern, and the voice of a fool in a multitude of words. Kasher tidor neder lelukim. When you make a vow to God, al ta'acher l'shalmo, do not delay in paying it. Kein chayvitz b'kstilim. Because God has no delight in fools. Eis asher tidor shalem. That which you vow, pay. Now here's the tov asher lo tidor misha tidor lo teshalem. Better that you not make a vow than that you make a vow and not pay. And yeah, al titain es picha lachati es pesarecha. Don't let your mouth make your flesh sin. Al tomar lifnei hamalach ki shgagahi. Don't say in front of the agent or the emissary that it was a error. Lama yiktov elokim al kolecha. Why should God get angry at your voice, at your yeah, what you say, v'chibel es masei yedecha, and ruin the destroy the work of your hands. Yeah. Okay, anything else here? Yeah, Rivki?
Yeah, I'm just rereading it because I want to make sure I'm thinking. I think with the Derech Nitzer approach,
Yeah.
if we can also say something about like, don't think like in the back of your mind, like if you're talking to someone, it doesn't fit as well with the words of the pasuk, but I think it works within this approach that when you're speaking to someone, you can be like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna help them, right? Like I'm gonna, do whatever I can. But if you were talking to God and like in the back of your mind when you're talking to the person, then you're like, oh, like we'll see, like I have to go check but when you're talking to God, you would be like, no, like I'm gonna really like make sure. So similar to like the neder thing, but a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that you should treat your statements in front of to people as if they're in front of God?
Yeah, meaning
Okay, yeah.
like, yeah, exactly. Like at the end of the day, like they're at Selma Elohim, and we know the way that we relate to people is a reflection of how we relate to God.
Yeah. As if you made them before God. Yeah, Avital Yotzi?
Yeah, I'm still stuck on the aruv definition. Isn't
Yeah.
makas aruv spelled with an ayin?
Malchus Arav is spelled with an ayin, but that's a mixture. Arav with an aleph is to ambush.
Oh, but that could meaning aruv ariva. Can that also mean like he's making a mixture before God?
Yeah, that could be making a mixture. I thought you said ambush. Did I mishear you?
No, that's what I originally said.
Oh,
But
okay.
okay. So I'm wondering if based on that, the derech nister can be something like a person who's a chas or lev. He's like depending on people, kind of similar to what was said previously.
Yeah.
And by doing so, he's making a mixture before God instead of just purely relying on God. He's mixing in human, reliance in
Okay. Someone who's relying on people is making a mixture before God, relying on both people and God instead of on God alone. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we've got the juices flowing in terms of this. All right. Let's look at meforshim here again. I haven't looked in this yet, and we'll see what we come up with. And I do want to look at the gra. All right. So let's start with the usual suspects here. Mitzus David Tokea Kaf. Derech chaser lev litkoa kaf ba'arvus mamun lifnei re'ehu rotzlam bishvil re'ehu. Okay, that does not help us. It is the way of the chaser lev to make a handshake in guarantee. So that's where our school gets it from in money before his friend, meaning to say on behalf of his friend. So that lends itself to what Racheli was saying is on behalf of his friend, right? Or for the sake of his friend. So I think this could be Racheli's idea. I don't think we're going to work on this that much more because he doesn't really explain it. Okay, Rabbeinu Yonah. Adam Chasar Lev Tokea Kaf. Tokea Kaf Oriv Aruba. Yikrenu Chasar Lev. He is called a one who lacks a heart. He yavi nafsho lidei matza umriva, because he brings himself into strife and quarreling. Ladun im hamalve, to argue or like get into a litigation with the creditor or the lender. Bevo'o lihiparea mimenu, when it comes time to collect from him, im ein lelove lashalim, if the borrower doesn't have what to pay. Ki ein derech ha'arev lifroa baratzon nafsho, for it is not the way of a guarantor to pay willingly, zulasi b'chozik yad beistin, without being compelled to by beistin. I'll summarize this after I translate it. Lifi shalon nehene b'davar, because he doesn't benefit in the matter. Ve'al halova lishtadol b'piraon gam achrechein. Hold on, my spidey sense just went off. I'm just going to double check the translation here. Yeah. And it is the borrower's responsibility to pay. Be wrong. Okay, my spidey sense was sensing that there should be a punctuation there. Yeah. Gam achrechen yariv im halove liparea mimeno. Also, afterwards, he will quarrel with the borrower liparea mimeno b'himati yado nechasim, to pay him back once he gets assets again. Vamriva derech maguna, sorry, assets. And quarreling is a degrading way. Alkane, therefore, ksiv achrav, it is written afterwards, which is next week's pasuk. Oh, actually, all right, sorry. Before I forget, we're definitely not having shiur next week because it's Purim. Okay, I just forgot to say that. But what is it? Ohev pesha ohev matzah, one who loves pesha, however we want to translate that, loves strife. Okay, fine. We'll wait till next week. Vashenis, second, ki oriv aruba poshea b'shmiras hamamon, one who acts as a guarantor is negligent with money. Amru Zal, and the sages said in Chulin, ki atzadim mamonon chaviyun alem yosmi gufan shelo yifshetu yedem begezel. That's an interesting statement, that the money of the righteous is more dear to them than their bodies, so that they don't extend their hand into theft. Okay, that's obviously in a hyperbole here, right? Because we say that usually that's a bad thing if you care about your money more than your body. Okay, Oriv Aruba, one who acts as a guarantor. I'll summarize it afterwards. As a guarantor, Yevush Laman Lamaim Bedavar, for he is ashamed to protest the matter. Kasher hu lifnei re'ehu, when he is in front of his friend. V'hu halove, who is the borrower. Interesting. Ve'eno min hanachon, she is bayish adam l'sarev v'davar shadas machayeves l'sarev me'asoso. Wow. It is not proper to be ashamed of for a person to be ashamed of something. To be ashamed to protest against something that the mind necessitates protesting against. V'yesh lo lachshov, he should think hahefsed keneged asrar. So he should calculate the loss against the reward. Ki tov lo l'sare v'lavor al rotan halove, for it is better for him to protest and go against the will of the borrower now, min hamriva vasina asher yimate imo ba'achris hadavar, than to than the quarreling and hatred that he will find with him at the end of the matter, im lo yishalim halove, if the borrower doesn't repay. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to put this through my ChatGPT translation refiner. So if those of you who have read my article know that I don't like using ChatGPT to translate, but I do this. Hold on. ChatGPT. So I have my custom prompt with a translation check, which I use to run my translations through ChatGPT, and then I usually go over it afterwards. But I think because I was translating on the spot, then it's going to be smoother if we do it this way. Okay, so let's just see. Okay, so let's read it again. Rabbeinu Yonah, I'll put it in the chat. He is called one who lacks a heart, for he brings one himself into strife and to dispute, to litigate with the creditor when he comes to collect from him if the borrower has nothing with which to pay, since it is not the way of a guarantor to pay of his own accord, except through the coercive force of Beis-Din, because he derived no benefit from the matter, and it is incumbent upon the borrower to exert himself in repayment. And afterwards he will also quarrel with the borrower to recover from him when assets are found in his possession, and quarreling is a disgraceful path. Therefore, it is written after this, he who loves transgression loves strife. Secondly, one who acts as a guarantor sins in guarding his money. As the sages said, the righteous hold their money dearer than their bodies, so that they not stretch out their hands in theft. So that was the first paragraph. I'll post this into the chat, and I'll post this into the document. Okay. And then one who acts as a guarantor, for he is ashamed to refuse the matter when he stands before his fellow who is a borrower. But it is not proper for a person to be ashamed to refuse something that reason obligates him to refuse, and he should weigh the loss against the gain, for it is better for him to refuse and transgress the borrower's will now than to endure the quarrel and the hatred that he will encounter with him at the end of the matter if the borrower does not repay. So that's a really good idea here. Okay, so let's go over this now. Okay, so what is he saying here? What is Rabbeinu Yonah's main idea here? I think it's really going into the psychology of this case. So how's he answering the main question, which is what's so bad about this? Yeah, Avital or Yitzi?
Yeah, at least for the last part, I'm understanding that he's kind of thinking short term. That right now,
Right.
look, it's like easier for me to just go for it, and that's better for our relationship. But long term, it'll end up creating more strife and be worse for the relationship than if you never agreed to it in the first place.
Exactly. Right. So I think that's the main idea, right? So in other words, what's so bad about the decision this pasuk is warning against is you are going to enter into a world of conflict and strife. So this is going to be conflict with the creditor because you'll need to be dragged to court, and conflict with the borrower because you'll demand that he pay once he gets more money, but he has no obligation to pay, right? In other words, like you acted as a guarantor, so you fulfilled your obligation, but he has nothing. He has no obligation to make restitution because it was you signed, and then conflict with yourself over the loss of your money and the consequences and or bad decisions that come from that. Okay, but what makes a person fall into this trap? The desire to avoid conflict. Okay, to avoid conflict. Like you don't want to say no to your friend. Okay, but in truth, if you really want to be mishleically conflict avoidant, you'll endure the short-term conflict with your friend rather than set up a situation of greater conflict in the future. This is a perfect example of Mishlei Mida Keneged Mida, where the thing that you are trying to avoid, if you try to avoid it foolishly, then you'll get that exact consequence. So in this case, your friend asks you to guarantee his loan. You want to avoid conflict with your friend, so you say no to avoid the conflict, and then that basically commits you to a high degree of probability that you're going to have way more conflict in the future. That's a really, really good thing. And I think it plays out with the examples we said earlier as well, is that the parent who is like trying to save their kid from consequences, from failing or from violating the rules early on, the parent wants the kid to not be in conflict, but and maybe the parent also doesn't want to be in conflict, but then if they prevent their kid from growing in this way and from learning responsibility, then they will be in greater conflict in the future. I still remember the very first time I saw this was when I saw a very well-meaning parent basically who would just do her kid's homework for him. And I just was thinking like, okay, fine, you're going to get the kid through middle school and maybe high school if you do this, but then he's going to get into college and he's going to fail. And if you do your homework for him, then he's going to get into work and he's going to fail. Like you've just pushed him on out of a desire to avoid your own conflict. Then you're pushing him on to a situation where he's going to be in a state of much worse conflict. Okay, that's a really good idea. Anyone have anything to add to this? It's a beautiful Mishlei idea. This is quintessential Rabbeinu Yonah. This is an example of my favorite kind of Rabbeinu Yonah commentary, where he explains the words. He every half of the pasuk he brings out, he gives multiple examples. He goes into the psychology. He supports it with Chazal. This is like prime Rabbeinu Yonah. Really nice. Okay, now speaking of Avital or Yossi?
Yeah, I just think there was another idea hidden in Rabbeinu Yonah.
Yeah.
When he said the secondly, one who acts as a guarantor, like right before the second paragraph, I think he's bringing out another point of irresponsibility with a person's money. Meaning, we wouldn't say the same thing about charity, that
That's
person
true.
is has the same pitfall, but there's something about being a guarantor that's being irresponsible with one's money because you're assuming that you won't end up needing to give the money, but in reality, like you're on the hook for it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Right. So you're also being irresponsible with your own money in a way that other forms of tzedakah don't partake of. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Did you put your hand up again, or is that from before? I just looked down. I didn't see.
Nope, just from before.
Okay. All right. Now I would love to do the Meiri. The only problem is the Meiri says he says Kvar he's bar inyano hein lenigla v'hein lenister b'pasuk vav aleph through hey. So he explained this earlier in Aleph through Hay, which we really cannot go through right now. And I don't even want to do the Nister because he's doing the Nister on that. So no Nister from the Meiri. Let's do the Gra. Okay, short Gra. Tokeh Kaf Oriv Schlufdutz. Is that a Yiddish term? I know like Shalif is Hebrew also, but Oriv Arubahu. Ki hamalve lo yigos tchila laha'arev, ala tchila yitba min alove. Ukshul yifra lo, az yachzor litba meha'arev. Ach kishe ha'arev omer mimisha tirta tigbe, vzehu orev osa aruba shechayev l'shalim, lifnei re'ehu, dainu lifnei halove, yitba enu hamalve. I didn't quite follow all of that. Binon kvar bi'arne l'mal, he also explained it above. Okay, I'm gonna ignore that because I don't want to refer to chapter 6. I know again with chapter 6 it's not just 6:1, it's 6:1 through 5. I don't want to go into anyone who does that. I want to find someone who does the Derech Nister. Zrachachain. He ties it to the next pasuk, so we can't do that. What about Rav Sheshes? Achar shediber b'inyan aksil shav ata levar inyan hamachlokes asher gina oso. So after talking about the fool, it goes back and explains the matter of machlokes that he degraded earlier. Valkein hiskir ata inyan echad hu ha'arvus ba'avur kihu lihios alav hamachlokes v'amriva bein bnei adam kamosh yisbar. So he goes back and mentions the matter of this one topic of acting as a guarantor. Because that's going to have a machlokas and a quarreling between people, as it will explain. This is you're supposed to extrapolate from here about any matter of machlokas. It's only bringing this security here thingy because of as an example. So there's an important methodology point here, which is he says that don't think this pasuk is specifically an idea about this case. Rather, it's an example of someone unthinkingly doing an action that leads to tremendous machlokes. Okay, so this is a methodology point because I've given this example before when we talk about like why do you ask what's the subject of the pasuk. I give the example of the lazy person says that there's a lion outside and I'll be slaughtered in the streets. you would think that that's a pasuk about laziness, but really it's a pasuk about excuse making, at least the way that we learned it. So to here, you would think that this is a pasuk about financial irresponsibility, but it's really a pasuk about machlokes, and he gets that from I guess the way he learned the earlier pasukim. Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting point. Let's see who else. Anyone else prone to giving us the derech nister? You know what? I'm just gonna. I know I just said I wasn't gonna do this. I just want to see if the Meiri gives us the code for the derech nister. The nister. לפי הניסטר יראה שאחר שדיבר בפרשה שלפני בשלושה מן הנהגות העצה אמר על הרביעיס שאם נלכד no, this is going to be way too involved for us here. Okay, let's look at the Ralbag. This is not going to be Nister, but let's see what he says. B'nei sipur ata me'ha'ezer lo yichashev bo tov la'azor v'sof ha'inyan yashuv lo lenezek gadol. Well, this is like what some people were saying earlier. So he says, now he tells us not an example of a helper that is not considered good to help, and at the end it will produce great harm. For this reason, this kind of help only comes from a person who lacks a heart. Behold, when a person enters as a guarantor to pay the debt of his fellow, V'yitka kapo lefarao, and makes an agreement to pay it, this will cause the loved one to become a hated one. And this and harm will come from this. Shiashu piraun achov alav, when he has to pay the debt. Okay, so this is another consequence here that we didn't really talk about. Another consequence, slash mishleic mida keneged mida, which is like keneged mida, which is like this: is you short-sightedly enter into this agreement because this is your friend, but because you made this decision, you might end up regarding this person as your enemy, right? So that's another example of the Mishnah negative Mida. You want to help this guy, he's your friend, but now once you're forced to pay his debt, you're going to hate him, so you're going to destroy the friendship, right? So if you really care about your friend, then you will not enter into this agreement with him. Okay, I really like the ideas from tonight, and I also feel better that we made up for last week, where we barely got any meforshim. Here we got some good meforshim as well. So let's review, and then we'll stop for today. So we had Avital's idea, which is that you should be aware when you get entangled into an agreement with anyone that you don't have the full picture, even if it's your friend. You don't have the full picture, and you should be extra cautious. And then I added the point about set an emotional counterforce to hate handshakes. Okay, like it says in Mishlei. What was the one I quoted? I always forget this. That was in Mishlei 11:15. And assume that you are being a chasar lev, even with your friend. Okay, and then you'll be on guard against this kind of thing. Okay, then we had Yitzi's idea, which is that it is bad for you think you're doing a chesed or a tzedakah, you're really harming the person who you're making the guarantee for, and you're harming yourself. You're harming them because you're really taking away their ability to take responsibility for this and to learn from their mistakes, you also might make them more prone to making bad decisions because it's not their money at the end of the day. They're gambling with someone else's money, and so it's bad for them and it's bad for you, obviously financially. But you are blind to this because you want to help the person. And we gave the example of parents and teachers acting as guarantors for their kids and getting them out of trouble or preventing them from failing. Really, you should let them learn the hard way. And that's really doing them a favor, as opposed to like trying to dull the consequences. Okay, then Isaiah said that this is an injunction against verbal agreements. You really have to get it in writing, and not just do it in front of the person. And by the way, I think maybe the in front of the person is pointing out that like you want to get the deal done now. So you might be tempted to make the deal in front of the person, but really you have to like take time to deliberate, to draw out the terms and all that other stuff. Okay, fine, because you're entering into a risk. Then Racheli, which we're saying is the Metzudas David, said that if an opportunity comes up on behalf of your friend, Lifnei Re'ehu, in front of your friend, and you want to act on his behalf, think twice. Realize you might be missing information that's chaser lev in terms of knowledge, and you might be chaser lev in terms of not putting yourself in his shoes and realizing you don't have all of his internal emotional world, and don't make agreements on his behalf without consulting him. And then we have Rabbeinu Yonah, who is warning about the Mishlei Mida Keneged Mida, that you want to avoid conflict, and that's why you agree to do this. But in reality, you're going to be bringing conflict upon yourself because of your conflict with the creditor and with the borrower and with your own money and the bad decisions that come from that. And then we had the Rabag, which we just read, who said that you are entering into agreement because this is your friend, but you might end up making him into an enemy. Okay, great haul tonight. This is a great pasuk. I sometimes like the more specific pasukim because they direct you to more specific ideas. Okay, so this is it for tonight. No Mishlei next week because it's Purim, and so Bli Neder, we will continue the week after that, which is the 9th. Okay, have a good week, everyone. Thanks for coming.